Greetings. This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central here in lovely Kent, Ohio. The only state in the nation that ends the same way that it begins, with an O. That's right, we end in Ohio. And today we're continuing on with our saga, our tales of black female flyers flying high in the sky. That's right, flying high in the sky till the day they die. And today's featured flyer is, oh my God, what happened to her book? Oh, there she goes. There we go. Miss none other than Janet Harmon Bragg. So, but we're not going to brag about her. We're just going to give you the facts, because that's us, Black Facts. But before we go there, we got some other things to do, including our daily proverb. So let's get this party started. Starting off with first things first. If you're watching this on Facebook, give us a like. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. And if you, no matter what platform you may be watching us on, please, 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 make sure to pass on the word that has been heard right here on Black Facts to all your friends, family, and close relations, even those who may have brought about some other manifestations in your life. In other words, somebody you may actually be having a little strife with. You can even tell them, it's okay. Feel free. We won't mind not one single little tiny bit. So, that's our first step. Next thing, proverb of the day. Coming right at you with the proverb of the day. And the proverb for today is, okay, give me a second. Had it right here in front of me a minute ago. There it is. He knows it like a game of Omweso. He knows it like a game of Omweso. For those of you who have not been paying attention, who have not been on point this whole time, the game of Omweso is played on a board very similar to this one right over here. Okay, not exactly the same. The Omweso board is larger, has more holes, more complicated game, but this is a dumbed down version of an Omweso board. The dumbed down version, the easy version. Okay, the world's oldest board game. And all of our proverbs this month have related back to that game. Why? Why do we keep bringing up this game? Why do we keep talking about this game? Why do we keep bringing up the name Mancala? Okay, why do we keep talking about Mancala games? We keep talking about them not only because they're the world's oldest games, but also because most people, the way that we are taught, it lends itself to our only using one half of our brain, one half of our mental capacity, thereby stifling our ability to excel, because most of us are half-wits. My terminology. Now, there are some among us who don't even use that one half to its full capacity. So they're only using half at 50%. So therefore, they're only using 25% of their brain power. I call them nitwits, because they're only using one half of the half that most people are actually using. And this kind of thing has been going on for quite some time. But all over the planet Earth, to this very day, black people play these games. And it's a math game. You have to be able to calculate in order to play the game well. And it's all embedded up in our culture, which is why we have poems, we have proverbs, we have sayings, and we have stories, all related back to this particular game. So as we talk about science, I just want to keep reminding people that science is us. We are science. In order for us to be here, some science had to come into play. Okay, when you deal with genetics, embryology, obstetrics, pediatrics, there's all kinds of science that went into it. We don't use those names necessarily to describe all these different elements, but they're all there. Even when you go in the kitchen and cook, you got some science to it. So science is with us. We use it every day, and I'm just trying to make that, I'm drilling in on that particular point. But meanwhile, I'm about to run out of time over here on one of my devices. So let's go ahead and get to our story of the day. We did our proverb. He knows it like an Omweso game. Story for today. We're still dealing with Janet Harmon Bragg. Okay? We're not going to be a drag because we're going to talk about Miss Bragg. And here we go. On with the show. On with the show. Boom. Shakalaka. This is a mural you're seeing right here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see this mural of Janet Harmon Bragg on the side of an airplane hangar. And this is when she was in the running to become an aviator in the Georgia Aviation Hall of Fame, because she come right out of Georgia. And that's where we're going to go in our story today. We're going black to Georgia. Growing up, my brother Pat and I were inseparable. We had so much to do. His name was Vanderbilt, but we called him Pat for short. I don't ever remember my brother ever having a fight with anybody. Never. He just didn't like violence. His sister Janet took care of him very well. I knew he wouldn't fight, but if we were coming home from school and somebody cornered him, I would walk up and that was it. Don't touch my brother. He should have protected me. Sometimes I got the raw end of it. We were all just kids. And after 2 or 3 minutes, we were all playing together as if nothing had happened. But just don't bother my brother. My grandfather, Oz, was a rather unique fellow. When he came to visit us, he always drove a nice horse with a surrey and a fringe all around the top. Pat and I would go out to meet him and climb in the surrey. Then he would say, "Don't put any mud in my buggy." I probably get my saving ways from him. Every little thing I pick up, I think I can use later. We used to laugh about it when grandfather came to visit us. He always had a pocket full of peanuts and shells. He would put his hand in his pocket, take the shells from the peanuts, then put the shells in another pocket. We thought that was funny, but it was just one of his saving ways. And he didn't want to litter. We didn't know what he did with the shells. Maybe they were fertilizer out on the farm. We don't know. I always liked to go out to the farm, out to his house. He had built a long walk with white sand and cedar trees on each side, which led up to the house. It was a beautiful house, stone for the first story and frame above, with tall trees all around and a big oak in the back with a swing. Wherever he came from, he was used to beauty. I remember that sometimes he would say, "Here you are, come out to eat off your granddaddy." Then he would smile. I guess we did go out there to partake of what he had to offer, because he had watermelons, berries, plums, and all kinds of vegetales. And my grandmother made the best cookies in the country. All the good goodies were out there. But Pat would say, "I just hate to go out there." Why does he always say we go out there to eat off of him? He didn't know grandfather was kidding. I thought my grandmother was so beautiful. She had long, straight, black hair, and she would let my brother and me brush it. But she didn't talk much. I remember that. Sometimes we'd talk to her, and her reply always was a grunt, like that. but she reared her children beautifully. My uncles and aunts were all grown when she died. Both of my grandparents are buried in the private cemetery in the corner of our land between two huge wild cherry trees. The limbs of the cherry trees, laden with cherries in season, were over the graves. Someone told us that it was bad luck to walk over graves, but we weren't afraid. Pat and I would climb up and shake the boughs, and the cherries would fall on a sheet or a quilt that Mother gave us for this special occasion. Then she would make cherry wine and let us taste it. Sometimes we'd sneak a little bit. After all, we were the gatherers. I think the real reason we were told it was bad luck to walk on graves is that they could cave in and we might fall. But it never happened to us. Also, when I was small, we were told, don't cut your fingernails or toenails. You've got to come back and look for them when you die. Kids believed a lot of foolishness in those days. I, on the other hand, was a regular tomboy, climbing trees, shooting marbles. I could beat all the boys at playing marbles. I always had a big bag of marbles because of my winnings. And I don't think there was a tree in our neighborhood that I didn't climb just to look around and sit there on a limb and see the universe and then come down. It was rather like later seeing the world from my airplane. I remember I was very rough on my underwear. Oh yes, they were torn every day. We used to buy flour in cloth sacks, and my mother would make my panties out of the sacks. Sometimes they had letters on them. When I think about it now, they were a good commercial for flour. I could have been making money advertising this brand of flour with my panties. Growing up, we were kind of in pairs. My father bought a Model T Ford, even though he never learned how to drive. Now, ain't that something? We would go to church in the car. Then every Sunday afternoon, one pair would have the car. One pair this Sunday, another the next, until we got around to everybody. If my brothers had a date, they could take the car. One Sunday, my father told Pat he couldn't have the car. Pat said, okay. And the next day, he dressed real fast and left early so he wouldn't have to drive father to church. When father found Pat had left, he asked me, do you know how to drive that car? I said, oh, yes, sir, though I had never driven it. I got in and turned on the switch like a veteran while my father turned the crank. As we got it going, my mother came out and saw me. Oh, my God, Sam, you're going to kill my child, she said. She cried. Nevertheless, I drove him to church on that day. Excuse me. I didn't know how to back up, but we got home safe and sound. There was only one dangerous part anyway. When we came down the little driveway, there was a sharp turn to avoid a ditch across the road, but I made it all right. I could reach the pedals well enough, but I needed a pillow so I could see out the windshield. Pat was already at church when we arrived. He whispered, how did you get here? I said, I drove the car. He said, you don't know how to drive the car? I said, I did drive it. I do know. When we returned home, my mother said to my father, don't you ever do that again. I guess I must have been about 12 or so. I still like to drive. My mother was an excellent cook. She was the kind who didn't have to measure anything. A pinch of that and a pinch of this. Put it all together and it would come out just right. Her biscuits were heavenly. I remember when I was 14 or 15 going with her to the county fairs where she made her famous biscuits. One time a white woman asked mother for her biscuit recipe. Another woman who was ahead of her at the booth said, oh, they don't use recipes. Of course, I was helping my mother and said, oh yes, she has a recipe. So when we got home that night, I said, mother, let's get these things together to make some biscuits. When she put in a pinch of something, I had a spoon there to measure. And that's how I got the recipe. The next day at the fair, I told the women, My mother had the recipe, but I didn't give it to him. Hello. I just wanted him to know my mother had a recipe. Just, I mean, they were going to get it though. She funny. Okay. So I could keep reading, but I'm going to end up right there. And we'll continue on with this story tomorrow. We will continue on tomorrow with the story of Janet Bragg. Janet Bragg, female flyer. Janet Harmon Bragg, female flyer. But tonight, we're going to get right, because we're going to go ahead and read some more stories of some other well-known Black inventors, scientists, and or healers. That's right. Last night we read about, what's his name? Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist. And for those of you who are not familiar with Neil deGrasse Tyson, I know y'all heard of Bill Nye the Science Guy. Okay, he's got a really cool name. It's easy to say, easy to remember. Neil deGrasse Tyson, you got to like work with his name. You know, he Black, he got to have a name that's more difficult, more, you know, it's not easily pronounceable even. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but that's how most people say it. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, though, look for his special on Netflix. If you miss it, we're going to put it up on our playlist this weekend. It'll be up there on Saturday on Mind Over Matter. So look for Neil deGrasse Tyson on our playlist this weekend to actually see Neil in action. I'm gonna look for some of those clips where he's on there with Stephen Colbert. So it should be quite interesting, because him and Colbert, when he gets on the late night show with Colbert, the two of them together, they just cut up and really act a dad blame fool. And I do mean a fool, because Neil, he can get kind of foolish. He wanted to be a baller, but he turned out to be an astrophysicist. So that's how it goes when you come out the Bronx. What can I say? Meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and sign off right here. So we're going to give y'all a good day. A two-tile nana. We'll be black tonight at 9. This is Doc Ock at noon and 9. Signing off. Don't forget, last but not least, if you haven't done it already, give us a like on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, give us the old thumbs up. And then go ahead and subscribe to the Tubular Black Facts channel right here on YouTube. And I know Tony's already a member, so we're going to give a shout out to Tony. And the rest of y'all need to become members too. Y'all slacking out there. I see you right through the camera now. I know you ain't subscribed yet. It's your turn. Go ahead and sign up right now. Peace out without a doubt, with justice, because anything less disgusts us. We'll be black tonight. Look for us then, and we'll make sure to leave you with a great big grin. Peace out.